is Ria Cotton, and I'm the broker owner of Cotton Realty. And welcome to another episode of Coffee and Conversation. Every first Saturday, I bring you real estate related information that is helpful for you. And today, I brought in a guest, Nika Wooten.
Hi, how are you?
So, in addition to a real estate company, I also have a co working space, and we have therapists within our co working space. Nika Wooten is one of them, and she's a relationship therapist. So, I thought it would be awesome for us to come together and discuss some of the issues that face relationships. As a real estate broker, I work with a lot of couples that are looking to invest in their either their first home or make investments into future property opportunities, and sometimes they haven't had that full conversation and are on the same page when they get to me, and I have to kind of intervene sometimes, and I'm totally not a therapist, so I thought it would be great to get some insight from Nika today. So Nika, can you just tell us the name of your company and about your background?
So the name of my company is Complicated Consultation Services. I came up with that name because I feel like anytime someone seeks therapy, it's because they're dealing with a complicated situation that they can't work through and or process on their own. I primarily work with couples, married couples, couples who are in transition, with uncoupling, divorce, trying to overcome infidelity issues, financial issues, getting on the same page and rebuilding intimacy and communication.
Great, thank you. And so I have a couple of questions that we're going to go over today in and conversation for Nika. And the first question is around setting expectations in a relationship as far as finances and goals. So, Nika, when would you say would be a good time to set expectations in a relationship about goals personally?
So, being a therapist, by the time that couples get to me, they're already battling boundaries, expectations, standards, morals, values. So, my advice is to have those conversations when you see that the relationship is moving towards a serious point. So people ask about, their background, how many children do you have, if you've been in a relationship before, what ended the relationship, like what's your favorite color. I think that people are a little timid and afraid to say, hey, like, what's your financial vision? What's your credit score? What are your spending habits? What were you taught when it came to budgeting and things like that? And you go through this honeymoon phase and then you're together, and then 6 months, a year down the line, when you have accumulated debt together, or you're seeing someone's spending habits, now it's too late, and now you're battling and you end up in a therapist's office.
Yes, thank you. And also, do you find that people come to you even past that stage when they're making financial decisions that may come up, like particular issues or a singular type events in their lives that they need to basically that they can't resolve on their own?
Yeah, like, I mean, and it's a coincidence, you're a real estate broker. I mean, one of the couples that I see, one of the issues is that one wants to buy and the other one is totally comfortable renting. One feels like they've been throwing away money, like paying someone else's mortgage, and the other one is ready to buy. However, they can't agree on one purchasing. One is like, why can't we do it now? The other one is like, why can't we wait for 3 years? And two, budgeting and saving, so giving up the extra spending and really tightening in on that budget, like less shopping, less coffee, less trips. And the other one is like, I want to live my best life right now, and let's do that 3 years down the line. And
Right.
so it's just as important to have that finance issue, just the same way that before you have a child with someone, you want to have the parenting conversation. How are we going to raise this kid? What are going to be our methods of discipline, if any?
Right.
So people come to me in the we can't agree on this stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in that, what are some strategies you would suggest in covering joint expenses in a relationship?
So really sitting down, talking about what the overhead is, like what bills we have, agreeing on maybe one person's going to pay the rent and or mortgage, and then the other person is going to pay the rest of the bills, or just looking at finances, deciding, are we going to go half, or are we going to do thirds? There's not one right answer for that. It just matters as to whether or not each partner agrees on that and if they're respecting the agreement. So one person can say, well, I'm going to be responsible for paying the mortgage every month, but I'm going to pay it 30 days late. That's going to affect the other partner's credit.
Right.
Or I'm going to pay the PG&E, but I'm going to wait until we get that 48-hour notice, and now there's extra fees on top of that. And it creates anxiety, it breeds tension, and then that affects everything. That affects the communication, that affects the intimacy, and that stagnates the relationship because now you're stuck here and you can't move forward with anything else.
Okay. And so one thing we mentioned is in talking about finances is money dates. Can you expand on the money date?
So I suggest money dates, like you sit down with a partner and you're saying, hey, you know what, we're thinking about buying this new car. So let's sit down and talk about what kind of car we want, what color we want, what make and model. I say have money dates outside of your home. I understand that that's where you live, or even if you're not living together, don't have it at the other partner's home. Maybe meet at a neutral location and sit down and have, yes, it's an intimate conversation because you're sharing intimate details about your life and your finances, but choose a neutral spot where you could actually sit down and not feel the tension and pressure and talk about the vision for the relationship as far as finances are concerned. Who's going to pay what? Again, what's your credit score? Because if you have a 750 and the other person has a 400, you're really not equally yoked, able to build at this point. But the partner should have the choice to say, hey, I'm sticking with you with this 400 credit score and I'm going to help you build it, versus finding that out 6 months or a year into the relationship. And I say don't always have them in your intimate space, because you want to keep your intimate space light. You want to be able to say go there when it's not, when the tension has dissipated, versus always having those intense conversations in your personal space. It makes you not want to go home. And then you have those partners that say, well, I've been working overtime, I'm going to the gym, I'm going out with my friends, because every time I go home or to that partner's house, it's always an issue.
Yes, that's very helpful. And then finally, fair versus equal. So I know there's different types of couples that you work with, and now it's more of not so much a male or female issue or conversation when you talk about fair versus equal in a relationship. And how do you go about giving advice to someone based on, let's say, their income status versus the person that has maybe the more dominant personality that wants to make all the decisions but may not be the breadwinner of the family?
You have to be able to really sit down and have an honest and transparent conversation about your feelings. And before the money situation comes, I think that people should also have the role conversation. So if you're always used to being the dominant and then you end up falling in love with or being attracted to another dominant personality, you should sit down and talk about that and set the boundaries and expectations in the relationship. So who's going to make the decision about where we live? Who's going to make the decision about when it's time to purchase a home or when it's time to have children or not have children? Or am I, because I'm used to being the dominant, am I going to check in with you when you might be the dominant and you're used to the person always checking in with you? Like, what are those agreements? And when it comes to money, you're going to sit down and look at who makes what the bills are, and it's not really a fair versus equal. It's what works for each individual relationship. So what may work for me may not work for you, right? So just being honest. And I always tell people, don't self-sacrifice to make another person happy. So if you're really not comfortable being told what to do when it comes to your finances or not having a voice, then be honest about that. Because red and blue make purple, right? So if you're red and your partner is blue, how can you come together and make purple where it's a win-win for everybody, where everybody's voice is being heard and everybody's needs and expectations and values are being met?
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking this time. I think this is very helpful for my audience, and feel free to share this information. It's available on YouTube. And Nika, you want to share how someone can get in touch with you?
Okay, so the name of my business is Complicated Consultation Services. My number is 510-491-9776. And my website address is itscomplicatedcs.net.
Great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.